Welcome into the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths. I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to. He look crazy, Bill.
Good feet on the old man.
This is some back
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. By RMB Builders, Rhett Bourgeois and our crew over at RMB. Remember, you can find them on Instagram. Hit them there. You can check them out online at rmb-builders.com. Great stuff from Rhett and the crew during the Parade of Homes that just wrapped up or got going this weekend. We will talk to Ross Jackson an hour from now. Of course, Ross from Locked On Saints podcast. Ross is going to be here discussing some of the weekend draft news, including what the Saints did. Saints picked up a draft class that was pretty good, really and truly. We'll ask Ross what he thinks about it, but as far as needs go, we talked about the big defensive tackle from Clemson on Friday, and then in round 2, they went more defensive line as they got a defensive end, Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame. They selected a running back in the 3rd round in Kendre Miller out of TCU. Then they got one of the boys, Nick Saldiveri, offensive lineman. What a guy!
What do you think his heritage is?
Jesus,
Fresh off the boat.
They did get a quarterback in the 4th round, and Jake Hayner from Fresno. They picked up a safety from Jordan Howden from Minnesota, and got a big wide receiver in A.T. Perry out of Wake Forest. So we will talk to Ross Jackson about the New Orleans Saints draft class, including some of the undrafted free agents that they were able to sign over the last 24 hours. Some LSU guys come off the board, including some free agents. We'll catch you up on all of that. LSU baseball sweeps Alabama over the weekend, so another sweep for the Tigers. Keeps them first in the SEC West as LSU improved to 15-5 in conference play and 35-8 overall in the SEC, as they got some help from around the league this weekend, as Auburn traveled up to South Carolina and took 2 of 3 from the Gamecocks. So a nice win for Auburn, a good loss if you're LSU for South Carolina, and a sweep for the Tigers, and they take care of business. This Alabama team, I think, was better than people anticipated them coming in. I think that when you looked at Alabama on paper, you just thought that LSU was going to kind of show up and take care of business. This was a really, I thought, competitive series when you looked at Alabama as far as their offense and what LSU was able to do from a pitching standpoint, and also their ERA in the league as a whole, as they were only giving up 3 runs. I believe LSU scored 33 runs.
They
for the weekend.
Took them to task. They had
pummeled them.
Oh, man, yesterday was that. It just turned into a slugfest, and LSU just outlasted them. It was, 13-11 was that the final score? And the way that LSU can, if you want to get into that type of game with them, LSU can swing it with the best. But when you talk about Alabama, Jay even said it in his post game. He said that Alabama is this is a team that's Omaha worthy. They're that good. And I told, he said, going into the series that, look, don't take Alabama lightly because they can swing it. And you saw it on Friday night where they I think they had the right fielder go 5 for 5 against Skeens and kind of took him to task a little bit. LSU, the offense shows up, and you're able to get 2 straight sweeps. I think they've won 6 of their last 7 conference games. So LSU was trending in the right direction at the right time.
No doubt about it. LSU is seemingly getting it right at the right timing from a pitching standpoint. They had some guys step up this weekend, specifically on Saturday, as they got some really good input from the bullpen. Blake Money with his best performance, Thatcher Hurd with one of his top performances of the season. So LSU was able to take care of business as, was it Collins that closed him out on Saturday?
Collins Saturday and then Cooper on Sunday.
Yeah, right. So, from a pitching staff standpoint, obviously you'd like to see more consistency, but they're figuring out how they're replacing these arms, as we got word last week that Chase Shores and Garrett Evers are going to be out for the season. So now it was going to be next man up, and LSU starting to find some of those guys. But I think yesterday was more of an example of why LSU feels so lethal to the rest of the country, where
there's no quit. There's no breaks.
Yeah, like you're on the third day of a series, one that you're wondering kind of where you're going from a pitching staff standpoint, and still some questions there. But your offense seemingly never lets you down, right? I mean, your offense is always there, whether it's Jordan Thompson, whether it's Tommy Tanks, whether it's Dylan Cruz, whether it was good to see Pearson get a good shot yesterday, and then Milazzo, of course. Really, you love to see his offense starting to come around and being something that they can count on, and because defensively you really would like him out there. And then Kling coming back this weekend, I thought was huge.
You get a homer from Kling yesterday. You get a homer from Jordan Thompson. You get a homer from Dylan Cruz, and then Dylan Cruz, I think his most impressive at bat was his last one with the bases loaded, and he's able to stay patient and draw a walk. And the carousel just keeps it moving for LSU. Like I said, there's no breaks, especially when you get Tommy White back. He leaves the yard as well. It's just, I know it's impossible to say that they should be the odds-on favorite, like they should win the national championship. But man, if this team can't do it, it's just going to be a long offseason, because they have all the right pieces. And I think, especially how you saw Thatcher Hurd throw on Friday to be able to get the save, I thought that was super impressive to see him come back and be in a pressure moment. And if he's going to pitch like that, Jay's just having to move all of the pieces around. And if you could put that puzzle together, LSU has all the talent in the world to win a natty.
The freshman goes yard again yesterday in Bear Jones, who just hits rockets, bro.
He's a monster.
I mean, he hits bombs, man.
And he knows it when he hits it,
Absolutely.
too. He'll be the first one to tell you. He has no problem pimping that thing. And it's like he's gotten to the point where he pimped him so hard, now he just picks the bat up and puts it down. Yeah. It's like, all right, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble here, but this still looks tight as hell. And so if you can get production like that from freshmen, like I said, LSU is on their way to becoming, obviously, every time you put them out there, it's been fun to watch. They have to go to Hammond tomorrow for a little midweek game. They've obviously lost their last 2 midweeks, but Hammond's no easy place to play.
No way, man.
We went there for Northwestern State for a football game, and the fans wore us out. They got a little daiquiri shot back there on the football field, so I'd imagine they got something cooked up for baseball.
Oh, they're prideful over there, man.
Oh, yeah.
In Hammond.
It gets rowdy.
Hammond, America. And then LSU travels to Auburn this weekend for a 3-game set where, as we said, War Eagle coming off of a huge weekend performance, going into Columbia, South Carolina, and taking 2 or 3 from the Gamecocks and taking that series versus USC. So LSU wins again. As we said, you started to 2 weeks ago when you looked up and you had some opportunities to get sweeps from teams like Ole Miss, and this weekend versus Alabama, you had to take care of business, and LSU did. And so they stay atop of the SEC West to Southeastern and Hammond tomorrow night, to Auburn this weekend. We will hopefully get some recap and some input from our guy Doug Thompson either today or tomorrow before that game in Hammond. So remember, daily, we are brought to you by Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal, which you can find online at premiersouthla.com. Louisiana's premier roofing experts in quality and service. They can help you with residential roofing, commercial roofing, gutters and awnings, Metal roofing, if you need that as well, get in touch with our friends over at Premier South. PremierSouthLA.com. Remember, we tell you all the time, if your roof is 8 years or older, then you qualify for a free inspection of your roof. Odds are you qualify for a brand new roof. Let one of the pros from Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal jump up on your roof today and find out whether you need a new roof. They'll work with the insurance company to make sure that you're getting every dime necessary that you can from the insurance to get that roof replaced. Baton Rouge, Lafayette, New Orleans, North Shore. Get in touch with them today. Online, PremierSouthLA.com. PremierSouthLA.com is the website. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jordy Culotta Show. All right, the draft has come and gone. The NFL draft is in the books, and for the first time since 2018, LSU did not have a player drafted in the first round. It didn't last too long as B.J. Ojulari was selected early in the second round as the Arizona Cardinals selected B.J. after just a couple of picks into the second round, 41st overall, so 9 picks into the second round, as Ojulari, of course, one of the top edge rushers in college football the last season. He finished last year with 5.5 sacks. After that, LSU still had a little bit of a break before they started kind of to get cherry picked off the board. Anthony Bradford was the next Tiger selected in the 4th round at 108. The Seattle Seahawks took Bradford as Bradford coming off of his only year at LSU as a full-time starter. He's big, he's athletic, he's strong. He's got he's got an NFL body. He's got an NFL athleticism. It's just about putting it together for Bradford. So he goes to the Seattle Seahawks. That's another offensive lineman. Remember, Damian Lewis is up there, who was a starting guard on the 2019 National Championship squad. Is up there in Seattle as well. Jay Ward came off the board next, and he went to Minnesota. I think this is a great pickup for the Vikings, as the Vikings have obviously found themselves a little honey hole in LSU. And really, just like the Philadelphia Eagles are loading up on Georgia Bulldogs, we're seeing Minnesota load up on LSU Tigers as they took their first of the day with Jay Ward, and then they went back-to-back. 4th round, they took Ward at 134, and in the 5th round, they got what I believe to be the steal of LSU's draft class in Jaquelin Roy, who lasted all the way to the 5th round and came off the board at 141 at 141st overall, as he was just a couple of picks into the 5th round. I think Roy is going to be a fantastic pro. I think he's made for the NFL game. I think that he's going to be someone that plays a ton of football at the next level, and him lasting to the 5th round is a heck of a value pick for Minnesota, and hopefully it works out for Roy as a good spot for him, because I think that Roy is going to be an excellent pro. Next was Kayshon Boutte, and Boutte was a topic of conversation going into the draft. When was he going to come off the board? And he finally came off the board in the 6th round at 187th overall, as he, in that junior season where he scored only 2 touchdowns and had 48 catches, is one of the biggest slides in the draft, and one of, from LSU's standpoint, if you're just talking about a player projection and the thought of where he was going to go, I don't think anybody over the last 3 years thought that Kayshon was going to last until the 6th round. Now, last season it was a lot different for the star wide receiver, and for him to go 6th into the 6th round made some sense for some people, just because of the slide and what has gone on since he has come off of that off-season ankle surgery last year and got ready for his junior season. We'll get back to a little bit more of Kayshon, but Jerick Bernard-Converse was drafted after that, and he was drafted in the 6th round to the New York Jets. And then LSU had some guys that came off the board from a free agent standpoint. Ali Gay signed with the Texans. Mike Jones signed with Atlanta. Jeray Jenkins signed with Jacksonville. Micah Baskerville signed with Chicago. Colby Richardson signed with Carolina, and Mekhi Gardner signed with Philadelphia. So all in all, LSU had some guys go, not the success and not, really the highlights that LSU fans have probably become accustomed to during this weekend. But all the while, you've got some guys that are going to play at a high level and hopefully going to play there for a while. Kayshawn in New England. Is it a good fit or is it not a good fit? I think, New England has the reputation and the cachet of one of the most stable organizations in the league. And when you think of stability, you think Kayshawn would really need and fit in a place that was uber stable, right? And New England, like we said, has always kind of been that model of stability within the league. Now, since Brady has left over the last couple of years, it has been more chaotic than we've ever witnessed with Belichick and the Patriots. And I think most pointed to that chaos is the way that Belichick has handled the offense. Right? Now, he's hired Bill O'Brien to come back to be the offensive coordinator, and O'Brien has been there before and coached Brady, so he knows kind of what the New England standard looks like. But for the past couple of seasons, the standard has slipped tremendously, especially on the offensive side of the ball, right? Where Mac Jones, coming off as a first-round draft pick quarterback just a couple of seasons ago, had a defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, and a failed head coach during his time in Detroit, back in Foxborough, calling plays for a very monumental time in development for a young quarterback. So when you look at kind of the way that the offense has been handled post-Brady in New England, it definitely looks like Brady meant way more to the operation than anybody else. Now, I'm not discounting Bill Belichick by any means, but from what we've seen and just outside looking in, no inside information, but outside looking in over what we've seen since Brady has left, the place hasn't seemed like it was championship contending type franchise, right? So I've got mixed feelings on Kayshawn. I love the fact that he's with a guy like Belichick, right? Where, there's so much success. There's, just this eternal football brain that you can knock on the door and pick if you'd like. And like we said, I can't imagine New England being that far off the track with a guy like Belichick in charge. But Kayshawn's going to be a long way from South Louisiana. Maybe that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be cold in the winter, and it's going to have an expectation for him to be a pro immediately. Now, I'm not expecting him to go in there and become New England's leading wide receiver, but he's got a great chance here to get himself into an organization and into a franchise where he can play himself into the NFL. He can play himself into a second contract. But he's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of trust to rebuild. And it's not the worst place for him.
Or is it?
I don't think it is. I think that we could outlay a lot of worse scenarios in the NFL that he could have gone to. Maybe not a lot, but I don't think that it's the worst case scenario for him. I think he can make it there.
Yeah, but he's either gonna get cut or he's gonna be one of the better players on their team. He's gonna be one of their better offensive weapons. But it feels like there's no in between. There's no ho hum. Kayshawn, goes through the roster, goes through the preseason, and you're okay. He's on the team. It feels like it's boom or bust 100% with Kayshawn. And for Belichick to be at the combine, to be at LSU's pro day, stick around, talk with Brian Kelly, and he was the one coach that Stewie was there that hung around the longest, he obviously had some sort of interest in Kayshawn. So it seems like he's been thoroughly vetted, and he knew that, hell, in the 6th round, you take a chance on somebody that was one time considered to be maybe would have been the best wide receiver in the draft. And now you get him on the 6th round flyer pick, but it's all going to be up to Kayshawn, right? Like, Bill is not going to do anybody any favors. The only thing that concerns me, if you want Kayshawn to have success, which I feel like we all do, he's been on the show, he's been a part of the show for the last 2 years, but you saw how Brian Kelly coached him up and how he was technically pretty hard on him whenever he gets to campus and say, I don't even know the guy's name. And Bill Belichick is going to take that same approach where he's not going to get coddled. And it felt like everything that LSU did tried to kind of treat Kayshawn with kid gloves around the program, and he's not going to get that opportunity in New England, right? Like, he's going to get coached hard.
Absolutely. And I think it's time for Kayshawn to make his mind up that if you want to be a football player, now is the time. Now's the time to check in and forget about the diva superstar status, because you're starting from square one once you get to minicamp. And I think every day you're fighting for your life, man. I think they're looking for a reason to cut a 6th round pick. There's not a lot of people who have expectation for him to make the team, for him to, really be a threat. So I think Kayshawn is in an opportunity where, look, there's situations out there that probably he would have fit better, but he's also at a place where he can make it, and it's on him, and there's no more expectation of, well, he's local, he's a great athlete, he's a standout player, all this stuff. All of that, nobody knows in Boston. Nobody cares in Foxborough. It's just whether or not he can play. And I think that, we do know that he can play. It's just been a minute since we've seen him do it consistently.
You still go back to that last play against Georgia, where it all flashed again, because if you watch that play and you told me that Kayshawn was going to run a 4.5 in the 40, that looks like two different people to me. He's got game speed. Like, that's where he shines the most. If you're able to keep him engaged, and get him involved in the offense, which you bring Bill O'Brien back. Mac Jones worked with him at Alabama, so the offense is going to have an uptick in production because you actually have a real offensive coordinator. It's not a defensive coordinator that you're just like, oh, this is my buddy, you run the offense. It's like, I've never done this before. And the Patriots looked all out of sorts because, Mac Jones was good his rookie year. And then you see the backside, and now if you can bring back Bill O'Brien, like I said, they worked together before. He taught him the Alabama offense. So if you can get some production with the quarterback spot, I don't think Belichick is in the business of trying to stay, run a bad organization, or he would just retire. So there's a lot that they're putting on this year, it feels like, for the Patriots to kind of take that uptick and become a player in the AFC East, which is now loaded with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets.
Yeah, it is. The AFC quarterbacks are incredible. Just when you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC, it is pretty much the entire talent of the league when you look at the quarterbacks on that side of the conference. When you look at that side of the ball, it's just it really is so competitive on that side. And when you're on the NFC side, you really had a great opportunity if you can get solid quarterback play to step in there and.
If you'd have told me that Eli Ricks goes undrafted and Kayshawn Boutte goes in the 6th round in 2020, I would have looked like you had two heads, because Eli Ricks, a freshman All-American, Kayshawn, freshman All-American. It looked like LSU was pretty much loaded, and then you see the drop in production. Eli obviously goes to Alabama, ends up being undrafted. And we had concerns about Eli Ricks going into the year after we heard, some things about him that he only wants to play man, and I'm sure all of that came out in the draft process. We're like, same kind of thing with Kayshawn, get with it or get lost.
Well, one thing that a defensive back going and playing for Saban does is your reputation within the league goes through the ceiling, right? There's a great resource in Nick Saban, which I would imagine that 32 NFL teams have great respect for, especially when you're talking about his defensive back breakdown, because that's the position group that every single day he's focused on in practice. So there's no player on the roster that he knows better than the DBs. And Eli Ricks was in Nick Saban's doghouse, it felt like the majority of the time he was in Tuscaloosa. And from the same sense of, we're talking about Belichick not doing Kayshawn any favors, Nick Saban is not going to do Eli Ricks any favors, and he's not going to put his reputation on the line to try and get the guy drafted when he thinks that he can't perform at that level. And I think that there are some things about Eli Ricks that scare a lot of teams as far as the coverage goes. Look, as far as the
measurables,
the measurables, and as far as like the personality, people can deal with that stuff. And the measurables, he checks the box, right? I mean, when you're talking about someone in Rick's size, 6'2", 190 pounds, I mean, that's NFL ready. And he's also a guy that, has really kind of pushed back against playing zone and playing certain types of coverage where, that was a big turnoff for a lot of people. And it kept him off the field when he should have never missed a snap in college football. So, I mean, he's going to have some things that he's going to have to learn. But he signs with Philadelphia, right? And one thing Philadelphia has committed to is that they have committed to
the SEC, Jesus.
Taking the SEC's best players. I mean, they had 7 picks in the draft. 5 of them were on SEC teams. And I'm counting Texas as an SEC team.
Look at their team, though.
No, I know.
Just look at the whole team. From offense to defense, they got SEC everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, they are going to have Georgia's 2022 defense, which is smart drafting. I mean, adding Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith alongside guys like Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, which you already have on staff, is, to me, that is not overthinking. That is just really making a lot of sense of what the draft is. And I thought the Saints had a good draft. I really did. And we'll talk to Ross Jackson coming up here at 8 a.m. in about 30 minutes to get his thoughts on what he believes the Saints did or did not do in the draft. But, Dennis Allen has put his personality on this team. A couple of defensive selections. They're looking at some guys at some other spots that have obviously come in ready to play. I got to be honest. I love Kendre Miller, the running back from TCU, a guy who is, you were looking at Tajay Spears in that same spot, and Spears ended up coming off the board a little later to Tennessee as he went to the Titans. Miller's a little bit bigger. He's a little bit more physical. He's a better pass catcher. And he's got some attitude to him, man. If anybody's seen some of the comments that he's made at Alvin Kamara, I mean, he has told Kamara, he's coming for his spot. I don't know if the Saints intended to draft Miller to be their lead dog. But, either way, he's going to see his reps pick up with whatever happens to Kamara from the legal standpoint, as he'll find out something, hopefully, at his next court date. But when you're talking about Miller and the opportunity he has to come in and play pretty early because of what's going on with Kamara, and then to hear some of the things he said about, coming in and talking about how he wants that top spot, it's a reserved office right now, man. I mean, that is
the incumbent is pretty good.
That is a taken spot right now by a pretty good dude. That's, he's got a lot that comes with him. So it's going to be tough to get in there. But I love his attitude. I love his just kind of his demeanor. I think A.T. Perry is a big pickup too. I mean, he's a 7th round pick, so he's going to have to make the squad. But you're talking about somebody who, from a size standpoint, I think is ready to go, and hopefully he can step in and make the team first. And again, all these guys have to make the team. And Perry was a 6th round selection, not a 7th round selection. But he holds the record for touchdown passes at Wake Forest. He's 6'3". He's 200 pounds. He's a bigger guy. Remember, Sean Payton has made some moves, and he's come in and he's taken guys like Lil Jordan Humphreys, who he's signed. He made a move and made a trade for Adam Troutman over the weekend. So, he's trying to recreate what he did down in New Orleans from a player personnel standpoint. But for the Saints standpoint, I thought that they drafted and got some really good needs. Again, we'll talk to Ross Jackson coming up here in a couple of minutes as it's draft now in the rearview mirror. I mean, it's mini camp season, and we'll start to see a lot of the off-season stuff really start to take shape. Remember, Daily, we were brought to you, as always, by our friend over at Katie's Restaurant. Katie's Restaurant down in New Orleans. Speaking of the Saints, if you're down in New Orleans and you're thinking about something to eat, get in touch with Katie's. Katie's Restaurant is online at katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com. Been around since 1984. Great menu selections. Got St. Louis-style selections along with New Orleans favorites. Got something for everybody. Neighborhood Bar and Grill over there in Mid-City at 3701 Iberville Street. Francesca's, the sister restaurant. Stop in and see them. katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com is the address. And you can find them online at katiesinmidcity.com, as we always remind you. So, NFL draft news, some other teams that I thought that stood out this weekend and made some moves. How about Green Bay? Their first draft post Aaron Rodgers, draft 3 wide receivers.
Wait, say that again?
The first draft post Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay drafts 3 wide receivers. For 13 years, Rodgers
they were allergic to the position.
Has been complaining about not having any help. Man, I don't know why it's so spiteful between those two.
It does. It feels like they almost deserve each other at this point. It's like an old married couple, and they finally, or I guess, get a divorce, and now it's like, oh look, now I'll go on vacation. Now I'll do the fun stuff. And if you're Aaron Rodgers, you kind of have to just take your head and laugh. Like, Jesus Christ, he's probably glad to be out of there. Honestly, at this point.
Oh yeah.
Because
it seems like both sides.
It just seemed like they were over each other.
And on the other side, they wanted him out.
And so it's interesting to see where they didn't have. I mean, it feels like Aaron Rodgers kind of had his choice of who he wanted at wide receiver, and he always went back to the well of people he was comfortable with, whether it be like Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb or Marcellus, Mercedes Lewis. Yeah. Like, he was always just grabbing people that he had a relationship with. But if you look at who they're bringing in, especially after the year Christian Watson had last year, where he kind of developed into a home run threat. I don't know. You have to re-sign Jordan Love. You had to sign him to the tender, so they're kind of all in and giving him weapons. And Packers are going on, and you'll see. Like, this is kind of boom or bust year for them, because if Jordan Love didn't work out, then they're back in the quarterback well.
Yeah, no doubt. Jaden Reed is their big wide receiver selection from Michigan State that they picked up in round 2. They did take some guys last year, including Christian Watson, who turned out to be a really good player. I thought that Atlanta had a pretty good draft, to be honest. I think Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas, who went 8th overall to Atlanta, was a solid pickup. He was obviously the number 1 running back in the draft, but I thought Atlanta kind of really went after some issues and stapled some things up. I thought Tampa Bay looked lost. Looked as if they had no idea what they were doing. And really, truly, from Tampa Bay standpoint, thinking about Shaq Barrett and his family after a very sad Sunday where Shaq's 2-year-old daughter, Shaq Barrett's 2-year-old daughter, tragically drowned at the family's house yesterday morning. 911 was called and tried to resuscitate the little girl, but was too late, and a very sad story. You can sense and could feel the somber news and mood around the draft, and specifically Tampa Bay yesterday, as Barrett was it's terrible, terrible news for anybody, and to see that come across the wire yesterday was heartbreaking. So sorry for that, but that was something that affected the NFL weekend that a lot of people were talking about. So very sad story. We'll take a break and come back. We'll get you set up. We'll talk to Ross Jackson coming up here at 8 a.m. We'll switch over and change gears at 8 o'clock and start talking about the Saints and some of their draft picks and get an idea from Ross what the Saints may be thinking about next, who they expect from a young face and new face standpoint to have an instant impact. We'll talk to Ross coming up here at 8 o'clock this morning. If you have questions about the Saints, jump inside the chat. Remember, we will get them over to Ross here in a couple of minutes. We'll be back with more of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and built every single day by R&B Builders.
Hey Baton Rouge, when traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, whether you need to fill up your vehicle or your belly, stop by Go-Mart and On The Go Deli. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you might need on your trip. So stop by Go-Mart at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left, and visit Tom and Wright Granning and their awesome team at Go-Mart.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Don't let the name fool you. Men's Total Health has offerings for the ladies, too. Guys, is your wife or partner suffering from urinary incontinence, low sexual desire, or pain during sex? Then the O-Shot might be for her. Don't let it scare you. It's totally natural. It's PRP. And Mike Roach and the crew at Men's Total Health will make you as comfortable as you can be. Contact me for more information, Katie at jordyculottashow.com, and I'm happy to tell you everything that Men's Total Health has to offer for the ladies.
Fourier Insurance Agency, established in 1946, locally can help you with any of your home, auto, commercial, contractors, life and health insurance today. Give them a call, 225-383-0682, or log online to FourierAgency.com.
Hey, she's on her way up.
Hey, G, I got you something.
Hey, Coach. What do you think? Is this too much?
If you look good, you play good.
All right, then. Let's get it done.
Do you need your roof checked or just ready to get a new roof? Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal has helped over 10,000 customers with their roofs over the last 2 decades. Premier South employs over 300 team members in South Louisiana. They're accredited by the Better Business Bureau. They've been named in the top 100 roofers in the nation for a number of years. And Premier South has former insurance adjusters in-house whose job it is to help get all the insurance money you deserve. So go to PremierSouthLA.com for Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal and get your free inspection.
Premier South Roofing.
All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, powered by and built by RMB Builders, rmb-builders.com. Remember, you can find them on Instagram as well. LSU Sports Radio Network, they'll be on the call tomorrow night in Hammond as LSU traveling down to Hammond, America to take on the Lions. They'll be on the road again this weekend versus Auburn, but an impressive weekend for LSU to take care of business versus Alabama. LSU exploded offensively this weekend against a very good pitching staff. I don't know if we respected and understood how good of a staff Bama was overall, with just over a 3 ERA, led the league as LSU offensively was able to take care of business. Doug Thompson, one of our favorite. We always trust what he has to say about LSU baseball and go to him every week. He's back with us here on this Monday morning. Dougie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good, man. Another solid weekend for the Tigers. They had to have the wins. We were talking about this as far as kind of starting the season as good as they did, and they weren't taking 3 every weekend, but they were in some dog fights and were able to take series away from really good teams. Now they're taking care of business. What was it this weekend that you saw that had LSU so successful?
Hitting, timely hitting, getting the big hit when they need it. Obviously, they hit the long ball this weekend. They were very, very explosive offensively. I love this team, and I'll tell you what specifically happened this weekend. That again, there's so much nostalgia. I'm sure you are too. I'm sure everyone that remembers the glory days, if you will, see some similarities and resemblances. And for me, what stuck out the most this weekend that I felt as a starting pitcher back in 1997 was we're never out of a game. I truly remember. I gave up. I started the game where we lost 28-2 in 1997 to Alabama, and I gave up 6 runs in the first inning and 2/3. And I remember Coach Burtman coming out there to pull me out of the game, and I was really shocked and convinced that it was early. We still had 7 innings left. I was convinced we were going to score because we were, just that dominant. But it was never over, is my point. Like, I vividly remember thinking, after giving up the inevitable 2 in the first inning, which I did all the time, that it wasn't over because of that offensive lineup that we had. And this team's very similar. Not a lot of teams are able to hit it. For example, 7 or 8 walks LSU had in the Saturday game, and they were still able to hit around that. That's just extraordinary, and very, very reminiscent of those powerful late 90s, early 90s teams.
Alex Milazzo was one of the heroes yesterday as he knocked in an RBI single late in the game to give LSU that 13-11 win and close out the series. What have you seen from him offensively that has made the light bulb come on here lately?
He's getting it done in his opportunities. He's moving runners. Great hitters try to do 2 things when they're up to bat. They try to hit the ball hard up the middle, and they try to change the scoreboard. And he's been doing that and contributing. And again, very reminiscent of 1997 specifically, with this 3-headed monster at catcher that's slowly developing with Travinsky, Milazzo, and Brady Neal, very similar to Clint Earnhardt, Brad Cressy, and Conan Horton back those days. So if people are concerned that we can't win a national championship with a 3-headed catcher, they're wrong. We can, and we have. And, I love what's happening right now with that catching group.
What about Travinsky making another most of his opportunity?
Jack Parkman.
Hey, who was that? I'm sorry, you cut out.
Travinsky, Hayden Travinsky, again.
Oh, wow. I mean, man, this guy has magic right now running through his veins. I mean, to hit the bomb at Ole Miss, it just as improbable of a victory as you could possibly, imagine. And then to really kind of do it again this week. I mean, it wasn't as dramatic. But you could almost feel it. But look, I was shocked at this home run, and I'll tell you why. The Alton Davis, I think was the kid's name, the pitcher for Alabama. He's a 6'5" lefty, and we are going to – I hope he somehow ends up in the transfer portal at LSU, because this kid was 96, 97 from the left with a nice breaking ball. And that at bat to Travinsky, he started with a fastball outer third at the knees at 97, and then just a 12-6 wipeout curveball for strike 2. And I remember thinking, like, well, this inning's over. And boom. I mean, it was completely out of nowhere. And, again, man, love what we're seeing from these catchers. It seems like they're kind of coming together as a group, as opposed to – I felt like at the beginning of the year, each time Milazzo or Travinsky would get a chance, I just felt like this pressure. I felt like they felt like they had to get it done. And now I feel like they're all a little bit more loose and completely, content with their role, and they're all thriving. I can't wait for Brady Neal to get back.
Blake Money pitched this weekend and looked good. Javen Coleman looked pretty good out there. Christian Little looked pretty good closing it out yesterday. What have you seen from Thatcher Hurd had his pretty good performance in SEC play? What did you see from the bullpen and the pitching staff?
Well, first of all, a little bit unrelated to baseball. Last Friday at my kids' school, St. George, they had an LSU pep rally. And Blake Money, Ty Floyd, Sam Dutton, and Javen Coleman, those guys showed up. They didn't ask for NIL money. They had a lot going on that Friday, and they showed up to the school this weekend. And I tell you, I was extra pulling for those guys, and they had good weekends, with the exception of Ty Floyd, who honestly, he was losing it out there composure-wise. But I would have been too, and anybody that was a pitcher would be, because he was really, really getting squeezed in those first 2 innings and completely got flustered and kind of lost the moment, which happens. But all 4 of those guys, they're special kids, and to take the time out of their day to do that is much appreciated. But to talk about their pitching, I mean, Blake Money looks like, Friday night starter Blake Money. Out of nowhere here, and it's awesome. I mean, that kid, he's got some really serious innings under his belt and some really competitive moments with that Friday night role in his background. So, when he goes out there, that heart's not beating like everyone else's with less, experience. So, love to see what Blake Money's doing. Thatcher Hurd, when he came in the other day, that's on Saturday, I believe. He closed it out on Saturday, right? Yeah. That's the best we've seen him all year. I mean, that fastball was popping in there at 95, 96 miles an hour. So, yes, those 2 guys look good. And Javen Coleman, man, it would be shocking to me if Javen Coleman doesn't have the ball in his hand for a big start over the next couple weeks, because that left-hander, you don't see kids come back from an injury better than they were, I would say.
Yeah.
And not only is it seems to me his fastball's got a little extra life. I like his breaking ball, but it looks to me like he worked hard in the weight room while he was injured as well, because he's put on some good weight, and really like what we're seeing from Javen Coleman. So with all those injuries, right, we heard about depth at the beginning of the year. You and I talked about it. Everybody talked about it. It was in the newspapers, on every radio show, how deep this team was, not only offensively but defensively. Coach Burtman telling me one day that they had 9 or 10 kids that could get outs in the SEC. And then we lose 3 arms, right, with Grant Taylor, of course, Chase Shores, and Garrett Edwards. And now, lo and behold, that depth that we weren't even thinking about, some of these guys that are stepping up now and getting some big outs. But, man, perhaps we were even deeper than we thought on the mound.
Yeah, without question. Paxton Kling came back to the lineup, hit a home run. He looked good running out there. Are you surprised to see him back to what looks like full strength as quick as he is?
Well, you know how that goes when you pull that hamstring. It could be a week in your back. It could be 3 weeks. It could be a month, and it could even be worse than that. Some of those things linger for months and months. So it's just, the timing for him was about 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But man, I'm telling you, this kid is a freak of an athlete. I mean, he's that perfect athlete size at 6'2". He's probably around 210 or so, and runs like a deer. And then you see that he has power, and he can really get it in the outfield. So Paxton Kling is a very bright spot for the future of LSU baseball.
Did you have Jared Jones tabbed as the leading home run hitter on this team in the fall?
Well, I'll say this. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I don't know that I called that or ever said that this kid's going to lead the team in home runs. But I will say this. I've said many, many times on air, what impresses me about Jared, well, his size, first of all, he's wider than me and you standing next to each other. And I'm pretty wide. You know, he is a massive human being. And what impresses me about him, man, is he takes a Jose Canseco style swing. I mean, it is max effort when he swings that bat. He never gets cheated. But, dude, if you watch him, like watch the video of him swing, when he finishes that swing, he's completely balanced. I mean, his combination of a powerful swing and such a balanced, compact swing is really impressive, and it's showing. I mean, I said on air this weekend, if I said, find me a more dangerous 9-hole hitter in college baseball, because there just ain't one. I mean, he's impressive. And again, another very, very bright star in the future of LSU baseball.
Dougie, you have been on great teams. What is this part of the year like? As the semester is closing, it's getting to where you're only starting to play baseball and you're on one of the best teams in the country. What is it like this time of the year?
Dude, it's the best time of year when school's finishing up. And, you know, these kids have real stress. Like, we don't ever really think about the tests and measurements exam or the physiology exam that these kids have. But and we all remember that as students, especially during exam time, how stressful those times can be. When these kids get all those bears off their back, it all changes. And we're going to see, believe it or not, I think we're going to see even better baseball when school ends and these guys are able to focus on baseball every day.
Great work over the weekend, Dougie. Thank you. Have a great week. We'll talk soon.
You guys too, man. Have a good one.
Doug Thompson from the LSU Sports Radio Network. He's on Twitter at DT9Tigers, and you can catch him every week, as we said, sitting alongside Chris Blair. All right, that conversation brought to you by RMB Builders. Get in touch with Rhett and the crew, Parade of Homes, this past weekend. Their stuff looked fantastic. Check it out on Instagram, RMB-Builders, RMB-Builders. Good stuff from Dougie as LSU improved to 35-8 over the weekend and sits atop of the SEC West at a 15-5 record. Got some help this weekend as Auburn, who is LSU's next weekend opponent. Tigers travel to the Plains this weekend to take on Auburn's baseball team, but Auburn's coming off of a high as they took 2 or 3 from South Carolina. Helped LSU out in the process as well. So, hour 2.
The SEC is stacked.
It is.
I mean, you'd think that watching LSU play, you'd be far and away the best team in the country or running away with the conference. Like Arkansas is at 14-7, Vanderbilt's at 16-5, South Carolina 14-6. Like, there's no breaks in this league. It's unbelievable how well LSU's played, and they still can't run away with it. Like, the SEC tournament is going to be electric.
It is going to be great.
And then once you get through that, like the regional, super regional, Omaha would not be surprised to see a ton of SEC teams in that thing. So, and we haven't even. You could make an argument that the East is better than the West. It's just LSU really hanging on in the West. And then, like I said, in the East, you have Vanderbilt at 16-5, South Carolina 14-6, Florida at 14-7, and Tennessee's getting hot at the right time. So the league is stacked.
It's great, man. It's coming down to that part of the year where it's fun. It's fun to watch, and I agree with you. The SEC baseball tournament is going to be electric. All right, hour 2, we're going to lead you off with Ross Jackson. He's going to talk New Orleans Saints draft. We'll recap it with Ross. Make sure you're following him on Twitter and, of course, his podcast, Locked On Saints Podcast, to keep up with the best. So we'll talk to RJ next here as the Jordy Culotta Show rolls on here on this Monday morning. Donaldsonville Glass and Body, the trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression and anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health, over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
Get going and get it done. Get going and get it done. Corrects done. Personal injury done. Workers' comp done. Truck wrecks done. Get going and get it done. Get going and get it done.
In 1975, Mike Anderson left the gridiron for the grill, opening a po' boy shop near LSU. If you're from Louisiana, odds are you've tasted a dish, experienced the tradition of Mike Anderson's seafood. 48 years later, the tradition of Mike Anderson's lives on with the next generation.
I'm very thankful. He's never allowed okay to be okay. It's a driving force for me to just want to keep it as good as he made it.
Mike Anderson Seafood and WAFB, celebrating the community. All right, welcome back here. Jordy Culotta Show, built by RMB Builders. Hour 2 here on this Monday morning, post-draft into the NFL offseason, as if there is one. But mini camps will be right around the corner, and we'll get our first look at the New Orleans Saints draft class, which really solid. Ross Jackson, of course, from Locked On Saints podcast, one of our favorites. Of course, you can hit him at Ross Jackson NOLA. And, of course, the Locked On Network, at Locked On Network. Busy weekend for our guy, so we're glad we could track him down here on this Monday. Good morning, man. How are you?
Hey, brother. Good morning. Glad to be here with you, as always. Appreciate you having me on.
Good to see you again. I thought that this was last year we talked about what was going to be the Sean Payton hangover of the draft effect, right? And it was drafting the wide receiver Olave in the first round, something that they hadn't done in so long. This year, it felt like the ghost of Peyton was kind of gone. It felt like this was very much Dennis Allen and Loomis and Ireland and everybody kind of leading this charge. I thought they got a good group. Ross, what overall did you think of the weekend?
Yeah, I think overall this is a really solid class for the New Orleans Saints. I like what they were able to do in terms of addressing their needs or I guess as Mickey Loomis would call it, want-to-haves, because he said that there weren't really any musts going in. But you had to feel like defensive line was a spot that they kind of had to address in this year's draft. I thought they did a good job with that. You've got a defensive head coach here as well, and a guy that is, been able to build with the types of players that they've invested in early on in years past when it comes to these drafts. But I think they found more refined versions of their prototype, productive versions of their prototype in this class. And then just sort of as the rest of the draft went along, addressing things like running back and offensive line, getting yourself some depth at nickel corner and safety, as well as helping yourself out on special teams. I love the wide receiver A.T. Perry that they went with. Nick Saldiveri, the offensive lineman, that's a 5-position guy that gives you a lot of depth. And we're waiting to see if the Saints are going to pick up Cesar Ruiz's 5th-year option. The clock is sort of ticking on that as the deadline is, as the clock turns today. And so, or as the calendar turns today. And so I think having that guard depth is a really important one. Was a need for them that they absolutely had to find a way to address. And then Jake Haener, I thought was a smart selection. I'm not the biggest fan of, quarterbacks rounds 3 and on, just over the course of the past 10 years. Historically, the NFL tells you that they don't pan out as starters. But if your expectation is not for them to be a starter and to be a backup, and then they surprise you later, then that's fine. And that's sort of where the Saints are, because they have their starter in Derek Carr. And, the other sort of angle to look at here when it comes to Haener is, the guy was destined to be a New Orleans Saints pick. The Saints were his favorite team when he was a kid. He loves Drew Brees. It was his favorite player. He wore number 9 because of him, went to the same college as Derek Carr. And, of course, Derek Carr is his mentor. Now he gets to be in the same locker room with him.
Take me to the first-round selection. What did you make of the pick?
Yeah, Brian Brzee was kind of the guy that a lot of us were pointing to, saying, yeah, this guy, if he's on the board at 29, makes a ton of sense for New Orleans. I liked Miles Murphy, his teammate out of Clemson, on the edge as well. I like both of those guys, as well as Michigan's Mozzie Smith. Mozzie Smith went, a few picks ahead. Miles Murphy went literally the pick before the New Orleans Saints. And so Brian Brzee was far and away the easy selection for them. And I think the right selection for them. If you look at his box score and you determine whether or not he's a good or bad player off of his box score, then you might be a little underwhelmed. 9 sacks, 15 tackles for a loss, 50 tackles throughout his career. But when you watch the tape and you see how disruptive he is, you see how often he flushes the quarterback out of the pocket, you see how impactful he is in disrupting an opposing offense's timings, how violent and heavy his hands are, all of the things that he does well. You can see all that there, and you can see why the New Orleans Saints really like him. They believe that the medicals are going to check out just fine. He had an ACL injury a couple of years ago, had a shoulder surgery back in 2022, and then had a kidney infection that was kind of a fluke for him that knocked him out of some games last year as well. But I think all of that, and then the context of what he and his family dealt with the loss of his little sister, Ella, in September of 2022, just goes to show you how much adversity he's faced throughout his collegiate time. And I think his best football is ahead of him, as long as he's able to maintain the maturity that we certainly saw in his introductory press conference. He's a high character dude, and that's another big reason why the New Orleans Saints like him so much.
All right, some other news this weekend outside of the draft was Adam Troutman was dealt to Denver. This is a move that he asked for. What was kind of the reasoning behind this, and the Saints obliged pretty quickly?
Yeah, they were watching wide receiver A.T. Perry from Wake Forest tumble down the draft boards, and in that process of trying to get up to make sure that they got the guy that they wanted, the Adam Troutman trade kind of came together. And one of the things that Adam Troutman said when he got over to his new team with the Denver Broncos was that they put a limit on what I could contribute. I felt like I could contribute more, and that's allegedly why he asked for a trade. And so. The Saints already had some work to do in the tight end room. If Adam Troutman, requested a trade, or whether he was just moved because the New Orleans Saints wanted to get up for A.T. Perry, they now have more work to do in the tight end room. So I think that that's still left to be done. But I think Juwan Johnson is far and away your tight end one. I think you're set at the top of that depth chart. Now, how do you improve what's behind him as opposed to, just kind of relying on the development of some younger players? There's some veteran tight ends they could go after. Including even still signing Foster Moreau, should they choose to. They could put him on the non-football injury list. And then if he is medically cleared to go after that Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis that he received with his physical with the New Orleans Saints, the Saints could activate him mid-season if he is medically cleared. So they've got some avenues here to be able to get it done. But the Adam Troutman one was a really sort of interesting storyline that we'll be following here for the remainder of the week, because I'm sure that we're just going to hear more and more about this situation.
They take a running back in the third round for the first time since they selected Alvin Kamara in that round a couple of years ago. Kendre Miller from TCU he's got some swagger to him, man. He's coming in here expecting to play. Some of the quotes he has made is that he's coming for that top spot. Obviously, he'll have some extended reps with whatever shakes out with Kamara early on from a legal standpoint, but what's your expectation on their third round pick?
Yeah, look, I'm a big fan of Kendre Miller's style and confidence, and I think that's a part of what you want from a rookie. When he did his introductory press conference with us, it looked like he was in Dallas with a suit coat on, no shirt, bare chest with a gold chain on. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, welcome to New Orleans, man. Like, you're going to fit
right
just
in.
fine. Like,
Right.
This is great. We had Adam Schefter taking his shirt off with a gold chain on. Like, you're going to be fine here. And so, I think, look, I like Kendre Miller as a player as well. I think that he's one of those guys that kind of gives you a lot of versatility in the package of how he's able to attack defenses. He can, bowl, over defenders in between the tackles. He can get around the corner. He's a one cut and go guy with long speed, top speed, all that. And he can also contribute to you as a pass catcher as well. He wasn't asked to do it very much at TCU, but he was there catching screen passes, plucking stuff off the dirt and everything with some low passes, making catches outside of his frame, things like that in hurried situations when Max Duggan was being, pressured by a defender and had to get the ball out in time for a screen. He was able to make some of those catches and immediately get north and south, which was probably one of his most impressive traits, along with his balance and being able to, pick up some tough yards after catch. He converted to 3rd and 17, 3rd and 10. I mean, he was a go-to guy in a lot of those types of situations and, was oftentimes able to do that. And he's got a really good habit of falling forward and picking up additional yards when he does go down as well. So I think he'll get some early run for sure, whether, regardless of what happens with Alvin Kamara in tandem with Jamal Williams. But obviously that number and those numbers tick up if Alvin Kamara does indeed face a suspension in 2023, as many of us suspect. His trial will be on July 31st. Perhaps we'll learn more at that point, midway through training camp, at which time Kendre Miller should be on the field and working. I know he has the right knee issue, but which kept him out of the national championship game and some athletics testing. But everybody seems to be confident that he'll be back for training camp.
Last year it was Trevor Penning early on. This year it is Nick Saldiveri, who is a personal favorite of mine, one of the boys for sure. Old Dominion's first player ever invited to the Combine, and he's also the first player ever to participate in the Senior Bowl. He is a mammoth of a dude. I love this selection, right?
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this one. He and Chandler Zavala out of NC State were the two kind of mid-round offensive linemen that I kept mocking to New Orleans. And Saldiveri, you mentioned he's big, 6'6", 318 pounds, but he can move 5.22 speed, which I know doesn't sound remarkable, but for an offensive lineman of that size is pretty good. And when you take into consideration his 10 and 20-yard splits, he also was elite in those categories as well. He's an explosive player as well in terms of his vertical leap, but his broad jump. So his athletics testing over the offseason was great. But the thing that you like most about this guy is his versatility. Mm-hmm. Played a bunch at right tackle at ODU, started a few games at right guard, played 30-plus snaps in a game over at left tackle. And then you mentioned he was invited to the Senior Bowl. When they got him to the Senior Bowl, he played center for the first time. And Jim Nagy, who's the executive director of the Senior Bowl, says that might be his best position. And he only did it when he got to the Senior Bowl. And so you like the initial quickness. One of the things that Nagy also pointed out about him was his second-level mobility, which is key to the New Orleans Saints run game, especially when they're running a lot of those zone run schemes where you're not necessarily just blocking the guy in front of you. You're focused on a gap. So you might initially shoot up to the second level. So he has a lot of ways that you can see him translate pretty tangibly to this New Orleans Saints offense. And with that lingering fifth-year option for Cesar Ruiz, with the rework of Andres Pete's contract, as of the time that we're speaking, both of these guards are in contract years in 2023. So there's also a path to the roster and a larger role for Nick Saldiveri right around the corner.
8 undrafted free agents inked yesterday post-draft once it went final, including linebacker Nick Anderson out of Tulane. Any of the 8 jump out to you as far as the names go of somebody to watch out for?
Yeah, Nick Anderson's absolutely a big one, but I also like the other linebacker that they brought in Anthony Orji, who is another sort of run and chase kind of linebacker. It was a guy that a lot of folks expected to be drafted as well, so it kind of takes you back to Chase Hansen a few years ago. I love the other additional signing of Cy Barnett, a 6', 190-ish pound wide receiver who ran like 4.3 speed, doesn't have a ton of kick return or punt return experience, but has literal kicking and punting experience as well. He went to a small college called Davenport, which just was one of those programs where you needed a bunch of guys that could do a bunch of things, and he's absolutely one of those guys. So I like him a lot. And I'm a big fan of a couple of the other signings that they made, including the HBCU wide receiver out of South Carolina State, Shaq Davis. Big-bodied guy, carries the moniker. I believe it's Little Megatron or Young Megatron, one of the two. But he's got, for real. He's just one of those guys that's got that sort of 50-50 ball, go up and get it, see ball, get ball type of mentality, believes that every pass that's in the air is his, even if it's on the opposite side of the field. This guy is just a hungry, hungry player.
Obviously, Ross, your attention this weekend was all in New Orleans and all about the black and gold. Any other teams specifically maybe in the NFC South that jumped out and impressed you or did not impress you?
I mean, we could start with Carolina for sure. I mean, they go up there and they answer their question at the very beginning of the draft when it comes to, their 1-1 and bringing in Bryce Young and everything. I like some of the signings or some of the draft picks that Tampa Bay went with as well, getting guys like, Kalijah Kancey early on in the first round and being able to add that. But the one team that I continuously go back to that had an annoyingly good draft for a lot of Saints fans is, of course, the Atlanta Falcons. Mm-hmm. I'm not really in the boat when it comes to, first round running backs or anything like that. But if anyone was going to be a first round running back, it was going to be Bijan Robinson. Yeah. And the fact that he ends up in Atlanta a year after the Saints really struggled and didn't play up to their standard when it came to run defense. And they fell down to 24th in the NFL when it came to, their rushing yards allowed. But the additions of Matthew Bergeron in the second round, the addition of Zach Harrison in the third round, I thought were solid pickups for the Atlanta Falcons as well.
Bijan Robinson, opening favorite in Vegas for Rookie of the Year, as far as the odds go.
Yeah, they tend to love their rookie running backs in that category for sure.
It's great to see you, bro. Great work this weekend. Get some rest. I guess the next thing is May 11th schedule announcement from the league.
Yeah, the expectation is schedule announcement then, and then that very next weekend we get right into our rookie mini camps. Yeah. So we're turning right back around and headed back to the Saints facility here sooner rather than later.
All right, man. We'll be in touch. Thank you again, Ross.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Take care. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. There he is, the best in the business, man. Make sure you're checking out Ross Jackson and his work at Ross Jackson NOLA to keep up with what the Saints got going on. He's awesome. Locked On Saints podcast, recapping that Saints draft weekend. And look, like a lot of this stuff cannot be evaluated for the next couple of years, really. But as far as on paper, what this class looks like, I think it's an impressive group. I think they were able to get and tackle, no pun intended, a lot of needs and holes that they have on the roster right now. One guy that we did not talk about that has a lot of expectation is going to be Isaiah Foskey, who was the second-round selection out of Notre Dame. Big 6'5", 260-pound defensive end. This will be a replacement for Marcus Davenport, obviously, who Davenport was signed by the Minnesota Vikings early in the offseason. So another defensive end on that defensive line from Notre Dame, who is a heck of a football player. Had 11 sacks last season, 45 tackles, 12 starts. He had 14 TFLs. He is a really good player, really good person, man. A lot of what came out after this pick from Isaiah Foskey, obviously not knowing much about Foskey, not really knowing anything about him, to see some of the feedback and some of the character tributes that are out there on Foskey. If nothing else, Saints getting a really good dude in the locker room. And I think that means something. I think if you look back at what the Saints were spending a lot of time deep into the playoffs and even winning Super Bowls, for the majority, I know, obviously, Darren Sharper and all that was going on in that locker room, but for the most part, you had good leadership and good guys on the team, which I think is, a prerequisite for a lot of good chemistry and a lot of winning teams is that, you got to know that everybody's plugged in. You got to know everybody's kind of pulling their weight. And one program right now that we do know is pulling their weight and everybody is plugged in is LSU women's basketball. And that is, this weekend was a huge weekend from a visit standpoint. Anissa Morrow was in town. And Morrow, who is a third-team All-American from DePaul averaged 25 and 12 last year, spent 3 days in Baton Rouge, and if you were following on social media, it looked like LSU just rolled out the red carpet for the 6'1" sophomore who will have 2 years of eligibility remaining once she picks her school. And the 3 finalists are the 2 USCs, Southern Cal and South Carolina, along with LSU. LSU had her in photo ops around the national championship trophy. They had photo ops with Angel Reese and Flaugier. They had photo ops with Kim Mulkey and Morrow. It was an incredible weekend. They took her to the baseball game on Friday night where she got a lot of love. They walked into Raising Cane's on Saturday afternoon and got a standing ovation for Morrow when she came into Raising Cane's. There was a lot of LSU love in there, showing her a lot of love. So LSU could be anticipating more good news on the way here from another standout recruit, Morrow, who is the number 2 rated player in the transfer portal this offseason, is down to 3, as we said, LSU, South Carolina, and USC. She'll make her decision here hopefully over the next couple of days, but it feels like LSU did all they could to make sure they know or they let Anissa Morrow know that they want her. And if you can add Morrow alongside Haley Van Lith in this season's in this season's transfer portal offseason, the rich only get much more wealthy, because that would be 2 enormous pickups for the defending champs, as they've already got Van Lith in the boat. So we'll wait and see here on Morrow. But if you were following on social media, she was smiling big, ear to ear. I mean, she felt a lot of love from the LSU women's basketball team. They were putting everybody out there. I mean,
they rolled out the red carpet. But if you're Anissa Morrow, are you not like, how do you not come to LSU? Because I don't think you're getting that same treatment everywhere you go, where it's like the LSU women's basketball is still how far off are we from a national championship run? Where
it was a month yesterday.
And it still feels like LSU women's basketball is like trending every time they do anything. So I would imagine getting that sort of attention for a women's basketball team, it's hard to turn your nose up at that, because you're just like, holy hell, it's different here.
Yeah.
Like everything that they preach is true.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I've talked to some people around the recruitment this weekend. I mean, they feel just elated about how it went. And I think a lot of the feedback has been very, very positive as well from Morrow and her camp. We'll see. I mean, the decision should be coming down here pretty early. I know that a lot of the services that predict this stuff feel really good about LSU and their chances. I can't wait to watch this team play together.
When does the portal window close? I know it closed today for
Soon.
Football, but are they on a different?
No, I don't think. No.
Is it the same?
Yeah, I think it's the same.
So she had to make an announcement today.
I would imagine so.
Well, yeah, okay.
We'll see.
Wait and see, because obviously we talked to Coach Reedus, and he seemed to be a little bit more knew what answer he was going to get with the Van Lith recruitment than he did with the Morrow recruitment. But I think once you get her in the building and then you got the whole weekend, I'd imagine the man is working.
The Van Lith-Mulkey relationship from the earlier recruitment, from the high school recruitment, really was big. I mean, it was really, really a big deal. So I think once Van Lith hit the portal, I think the Queen said,
yeah, I'm not missing on you twice. You're right.
Not this time.
Even Van Lith put out the picture of her and Kim Mulkey.
Yeah.
So you knew that relationship was strong. So we'll see with Morrow. And it seems like the players are doing more of the recruiting for Morrow than maybe the coaching staff is, which is, hey, if they bring that whole thing together and you want to put the super team together, I've been saying this, LSU will be public enemy number 1, but I feel like this team is built for that. Yeah. They want it.
Absolutely. And I think they already are public enemy number 1, and I think they've embraced it, and they think they are selling that. I think that they're selling that to especially Van Lith.
Oh, she wants that.
Van Lith wants that smoke. You know what I mean? I don't know anything about Morrow. I watched a couple of her highlights.
She can shoot it.
She's put together. You know what I mean? I mean, she is a big body that can score and a problem underneath. So we'll see. We'll see what the announcement is.
It was Van Lith against Texas that was talking shit.
When they stopped her in the line.
And she blew her off, and then she did the Then she gets into it with Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark is like, "You're down 15," but still, she was still bringing it 10 toes down. Like she brings that to LSU with Angel Reese, Van Lith, and you obviously have Kim Mulkey, who doesn't run from any type of comments that she wants to make. This team is going to be in the public spotlight for a long time.
Yeah, no doubt. Like we said last week, it's just getting started. LSU made the announcement over the weekend that they were hiring defensive line coach Jimmy Lindsey to the same position here in Baton Rouge. He's coming over from South Carolina, as we said, 45 years old, been in coaching since 2000, where he began as a GA at Chattanooga. That's where he graduated from. This is the first time that he is back with LSU defensive coordinator Matt House after those guys spent 4 seasons together coaching at Gardner-Webb, where Lindsey was the special teams coach and also cross-trained with some linebackers and defensive line working alongside House. House fell in love with him and has been coaching the trenches since 2005. House comes into this process very much being a loud voice for Jimmy Lindsey. As we've said about Matt House, I believe Matt House is one of the best assistant coaches to come through Baton Rouge, in the same class as Dave Aranda, in the same class as Joe Brady, in the same class as Frank Wilson. I believe that Matt House has the same type of effect from an assistant coaching standpoint that any of the great ones who have come through here have made. So if House endorses and wants Jimmy Lindsey, I'm all on Jimmy Lindsey, right? If people were looking for a bigger name, if people were wondering where was the big splash, if people were curious about where's the big payday, hey, at this point, you've got to trust this coaching staff, right? They've got enough equity, they've got enough goodwill built up where they have proven they are making the right decisions, and they're making it with the intent of LSU being at their best every single day. And if Lindsey makes sense for Matt House, I sign off on Jimmy Lindsey. Because I trust Matt House to a point of he's going to direct that side of the ball to win championships. And that's all he cares about. That's all he's concerned about, is winning at this level. And he knows to do that, he's got to go get good players in recruiting, and he's got to hire great coaches. And if he believes Lindsey's the guy, I'm in.
And it speaks volumes to Matt House's commitment to LSU, right? Like, if there was one coordinator or coach that you were, I guess, worried about leaving, maybe going to the next level, we don't know what his aspirations are for his life, if he wants to continue to be a defensive coordinator in the SEC and for LSU, or if he has aspirations to go to the NFL. But if he brings in somebody that he trusts, feels like he's sticking around for the long term.
And we'll see if he can recruit here pretty soon, because 2025 defensive lineman Elijah Griffin, who is a 5-star out of Georgia, Lindsey's been his lead recruiter over at South Carolina, and by all accounts, South Carolina has been in the lead for Griffin. Obviously, I think one of the questions that Brian Kelly and the staff asks Lindsey when interviewing him is, look, after you've proven that you can do it on the whiteboard and that it all makes sense of drawing it out, now who can you bring with you? And you lead that conversation with one of the biggest recruits in 2025 cycle, in Elijah Griffin, who's a big-time defensive lineman. Well, I mean, that endears you to the job a lot more. So, like I said, I can't give you a thorough bio and background on Lindsey. I mean, I can read you his resume if you want, but my sell line would be this. Matt House wants him, I'm in.
It's so hard to pass up this job, too.
Oh, man.
Like, I would imagine LSU had its pick of the litter of who they wanted to come in and coach the defensive line. I mean, go back to what even Jamar Cain said whenever he got offered the job. He's like, it's the best opportunity in the country. Like, you can't coach a better group than the defensive line at LSU. Like, it just feels different here. Obviously, Sean Payton makes his move and gets him to go to Denver, but Jamar spoke so highly of the job, like, it recruits itself. Mm-hmm. And especially with the guys that he's going to have, like, to work with already that are already on campus.
It comes with so much respect on the business card.
Right.
You know, I think there are a couple of positions that even NFL guys look at and they say, wow, this guy was the, LSU defensive line
architect.
coach.
Yes.
I mean, Corey Raymond had that reputation for a long time when the DBs were, being pumped into the NFL. I mean, Raymond was a guy whose name continuously came up as someone who, watch out for, a top recruiter, a top developer. But he was coaching a position group that had a hell of a reputation, right? I'd imagine that the LSU wide receiver room has that reputation in the league. When you start talking about guys that every single week you've got a game plan for a Jarvis Landry, an Odell Beckham, a Jamar Chase, a Russell Shepard, a Russell Gage, a Justin Jefferson.
Terrace Marshall.
I mean, where are all these guys coming from? LSU. Like, damn. If I ever lose my job in the league, I'd like to land that wide receiver gig in Baton Rouge. That'll get you back to the NFL really quick if you want to be. I mean, Jamar Cain. One season as the defensive line coach at LSU without his best player, arguably, in Mason Smith, finds himself on an NFL coaching staff 8 months after taking the job. Cain's qualified. He's great at coaching. He has been in it for a long time and has waited his turn. But when he got to LSU and proved it, that's when the green light happened for him to get to the highest level.
I mean, if you're Jamar Cain, how can you pass up that opportunity to go to Denver and be the pass rush specialist under Sean Payton? That feels like a job that you never really are going to lose.
Sure.
Like, there's not going to be a lot of – it was like Insminger, whenever he was coaching the tight ends and he was asked to be the offensive coordinator, he's like, nobody fires the tight ends coach.
Yeah, nobody knows who he is.
I'm very happy here.
Right.
And so Jamar being able to work on that staff under Sean Payton and be the pass rush specialist, he's got a job as long as he wants it in a fantastic place to live. And if you have any clue who was running the draft boards for the Saints or now the Broncos, look at what Sean Payton and the Broncos did. Jesus, I'm automatically made 3 moves to move up. It's insane.
Denver had to be like, whoa.
I want it, and I want it now.
Who is this guy? Like, whoa, take that
we
away
don't
from
do
him.
all this here. Put the
Yeah,
bomb
hire
down.
him somebody. I hope somebody knows somebody in New Orleans where they can call and be like, I need to build a filter for this guy because he might trade every pick y'all have for the next decade.
Yeah, Russell Wilson isn't safe either. He will do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
and he
Walmart money.
Yeah, he's got full autonomy. Like, that's the only reason he would take the job. And when he asks for full autonomy, he wants it because he's going to use it. And it's just it's almost, obviously he's a great coach, but draft day has been so much more relaxing without having to worry about Sean Payton moving up and trading the farm every year to try to get a pick. LSU. The Saints just kind of stayed pat, made the picks, and it was kind of a stress-free draft process, and it feels like they nabbed some good players on top of that. But if you're in Denver, get ready because this is the Sean Payton experience to a T.
He wants to win yesterday.
Yeah.
And he will not listen to anybody tell him he won't. So no, I agree. It was funny to see bang, Denver's trading away picks. Bang, Denver made another trade. Look at
Denver's back on the clock.
I guess Peyton's making moves up there, man.
John Elway's like, wait, what? Where are we?
Yeah.
What are we drafting?
So I have autonomy, right? I can do this.
Yeah, John, you're on the golf course. I'm over here in the war room.
All right, so good stuff from Doug Thompson and good stuff as well from Ross Jackson on the NFL draft. It should be a busy day here over at FM. Make sure you're listening to the Mic'd Up Show with Jared Mitchell and Mikey Matuk. You will not find a better breakdown of LSU baseball out there, man. I listened to shows and was listening to Skip and Cano last night, and they were doing great, wrapping it up in the weekend. And it's a great kind of back-to-back night to get Hold the Rope with Skip and Cano breaking down LSU baseball, kind of moving right into Matuk and Mitchell and Lloyd and the crew for Hold the Rope. That's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure you're checking that out, a part of the FM Digital Media Podcasting Network. That is over at Mic'd Up. They're on social media. They've got great social media that you can find at Mic'd Up for Twitter.
Mic'd Up _8.
Is the Twitter handle. The handle.
Yep. And then we have, obviously tonight, 6 to 8, we believe we have Alex Milazzo coming in studio tonight. So get one of the 3-headed monsters at catcher and a guy that's been absolutely on fire. What are you pointing at? But a guy that's been absolutely on fire.
Garrett Nussmeier just told Shea Dixon that he is staying at LSU. for the next 3 years or however much time he has left.
Yeah, he did not put his name in the portal.
Because today was the last day.
Yeah.
Did LSU lose anybody?
I don't think so.
Not one player. Another season. Brian Kelly, year 2. Says a lot, man. It is easy for college students, athletes, to leave whatever program they're at today and be somewhere tonight. It's easy to do that. And for 2 consecutive years, LSU has been able to go in. Last year, they raided the portal. This year, they cherry-picked the portal. But for 2 years, they have not been crippled or hurt by the portal. And that has to be a direct line of leadership. That has to be a direct line to the program of people believing, people seeing, people understanding, people riding, people saying that they're here. And LSU is on the right path. I mean, if that's something from an outsider looking in that should say, I think that's a big telltale sign. You know, Colorado's got a huge problem. They've got an enormous issue. I know that Dion is staring this thing right in the face and taking it head on, but they had 83 players. They had 75 players on scholarship last year. Today, right now, they have 13. I mean, I'm looking around the portal. They don't have mesmerizing talent in the portal. Keon Jones, wide receiver from Michigan State, went in last night, 2-sport star for the Spartans from South Louisiana. Could help LSU really more on the basketball floor than he could in the wide receiver room, but a heck of a pass catcher. I don't know if you're a wide receiver if you really want to come to LSU. There are a lot of pros down here.
Yeah. Only one ball.
I mean, like, you know, Landon Ibieta is a player.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, they add one more to the room.
But some more updates from Shea on the transfer portal. He said that Keon Coleman, LSU has been in touch, and he said that LSU would obviously take him, Louisiana cat.
I wonder if they would make him a DB.
I don't. That's
Coach. He's a receiver.
I know he is, Coach. But why would you come here if you're a receiver?
I'm telling you that he can play in this room. Like
over who?
He could play in this room, no matter if it's starting or coming off the bench. Like he can play in this room.
I guess you get another Aaron Anderson type.
Oh no, he's like 6'3". He's like 6'.
But I mean, he was like the punt returner, wasn't he?
Keon Coleman?
Uh-huh.
Nah, that was Thorne, the other kid that got drafted by Green Bay.
Okay.
Nah, he's like 6'3". I mean, he's probably his best comp on LSU's team would probably be like Brian Thomas, but he's probably bigger and stronger than Brian Thomas.
That's high praise.
Coach.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, hey, you know.
Turn on the tape.
That's your neck of the woods.
Get him.
And get him to play basketball. We had another, and then LSU is obviously in talks to try to add a safety, and the running back from Notre Dame are all on LSU's watch list as the transfer portal closes up. So,
is Jalen Milroe transferring?
There's no
I don't
way.
think so.
I mean, you got to think he's going to try to compete with.
What's his name?
God.
Tyler Buckner?
Buckner. I mean, I don't know what. Alabama's putting a lot of stock in old Tommy Rees and what Notre Dame was selling, and LSU, obviously, I guess he had the first order refusal to come down and be the offensive coordinator at LSU under Brian Kelly. Said he didn't want to work under Brian Kelly anymore, kind of wanted his own autonomy. He has lost that under Nick Saban, where he will be under his thumb, but brings in a former Notre Dame quarterback, Buckner. But the Alabama quarterback room is kind of perplexing.
Kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Milroe's obviously a stud athlete. Who's the other cat?
Ty Simpson.
Ty Simpson is. They both kind of play the same way, where they're not like your prototypical drop back passer. You have Eli Holstein, who's there as a freshman, and then they add Tyler Buckner, who played a little bit at Notre Dame, finished out the year as their starter, and he's kind of a dual threat as well. So, if it ever has seemed like Alabama can bleed, this certainly feels like the time, right? If you're LSU, where you take them, obviously get a win in overtime by going for 2 at home and get a win. But if you're, this is the best I've felt about going into Alabama and playing them heads up one more time and seeing that LSU can probably go blow for blow with them.
Bama.
Bama.
Love it.
I mean, because, there's an old world where you see Garrett Nussmeier hop in the portal and go to Bama.
No doubt.
And now it's like, no, I'm staying here. I love it here. And he's going to be able to compete, play. I would imagine he's going to play a little bit this year. Then it sets up for him to make the world is yours next year. Like, Garrett Nussmeier's getting that ball.
And I saw him throw that ball.
I saw him throw that ball. And you'll see. I mean, people are going to be pumped. They've been wanting the Garrett Nussmeier experience, but you get one more year, Jaden Daniels.
This is Keon Coleman.
Oh, yeah, Coach.
I mean, if we don't think we could use this in the receiver.
Oh, he did the fake. Oh, he did a little gritty. A little fake hammy. Look at this guy. He just had the old school digital camera. Go up and get you one.
Wow.
Coach.
He can play here.
Yeah. Was supposed to come here.
How did he get out of here?
He didn't get offered.
He was a COVID senior. And, like, right before he took his visit, I think, like, they told him, like, couldn't happen because of COVID.
Yeah, he didn't get
Went
offered.
to Michigan State. Yeah, he was going to get offer on the visit.
I mean, yeah, this guy's big time.
He's huge.
Come on, it's 6'4". And it doesn't look like it's a hard 6'4" either.
No,
He can move at that height.
I mean, just easy.
He's taking it off people's heads. Okay. He could be 0 here too.
Hey, man.
Stewie knows his recruiting now. He knows the Louisiana kids. I love me some Keon Coleman. Come on down. Water's nice.
It is. Opelousas
Basketball player too.
Basketball player too.
Got a spot for you there too.
Hell yeah, he starts.
Oh, the basketball highlights, Coach, are insane. Like,
did he play for Izzo?
He played his freshman year, and then this year, he was so good in football. It was like Izzo kind of probably told him, like, "Hey, look, you might want to focus on football," because Michigan State was what 2 or 3 this year coming out, like starting the year.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, they were a top 4 team for sure.
Right. So I mean,
you're right. Izzo told him not to cut. Like, don't worry about it.
He's like, he has a much brighter future in football, so play football.
Now, here, we got to have you. I mean, you can play both.
You will start.
Yes.
At both.
Yeah, I mean, golly, dude. You put this kid into the wide receiver room at LSU, you might lose one.
We have to run out of time.
I mean,
Keon Coleman.
Basketball?
He dropped 63 in high school.
Yeah. Telling you, Coach. Like,
where do you go?
He's a player.
Yeah. They had, like, overtime pulling up at their games.
Yeah, that's what I'm watching right now.
1A school in Opelousas,
Coach, look at
Louisiana.
this. I mean, he can play.
How did they miss on this kid?
I'm telling you, like,
look at that pull-up jumper.
I'm telling you,
Splash.
from what Ron has told me, that he was supposed to take his visit, and then they were all COVID seniors. So whenever COVID hit, he just couldn't go on the visits, and LSU couldn't offer. And I don't think he even visited Michigan State before, like, committing to them either. I think he took like a Zoom visit. And
what do you think that first winter day was like?
Oh my God! Y'all didn't tell me about this on Zoom.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up. What is this?
I'm going to see the equipment manager. I need 3 jackets.
I got to get to the SEC.
Bundle me up, Coach. Where are those big jackets? Got my hood on.
Does he have 2 years left?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my goodness. Man.
He could play basketball.
Oh my goodness. Come on home, Keon.
Yeah, what's your wing place from Opelousas? That's coming to KOK?
That's
coming to Baton Rouge? Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive, man. If LSU lands this kid, I mean, their wide receiver room
just got better.
I mean, goodness gracious. They got everything.
Everything.
They got everything.
Size, speed.
They got everything.
Athletes.
Jeez. I guess you would be worried about losing somebody. Who would you think to hit the portal if somebody did?
I mean, I'd hate to play this game, but I would think that the first one out would be Chris Hilton.
Either Chris Hilton or maybe like a Landon Ibieta.
I see Ibietta's probably going to.
Dude, if I'm Ibieta, I'm saying, you know what? I'm rolling the dice.
At least might be kick returner.
At least.
But
I mean, he's got to have the ball in his hand a couple of times a game.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
that
you know, I'm not saying like featuring, but like 3 or 4 touches with the kickoffs.
Right.
With the kickoffs.
So you say he's going to be a kickoff returner.
That's fine.
Where's Aaron Anderson?
I think he
you put him back there. Yeah, I think Aaron Anderson's
punts.
a punt returner.
Oh, yeah.
You put him back there with Noah Kane. Let Noah Kane.
Did you watch the latest Algiers America?
Yes.
Coach, why did John Curtis keep kicking to him?
I haven't watched it yet.
You hadn't seen it?
Wait, the fourth. Is this the 4th episode?
This is the 3rd episode. Last Tuesday night's episode.
I didn't finish it.
Where they were trying to they were trying to replace the
Keep kicking
game.
to him.
They were trying to replace the game because of Ida.
He ran 3 back.
And Bryce Brown gets on Friday Night Live with Eddie D, with Ed Daniels, and is like, I don't have an opponent to play next week. And he says JT Curtis texted him on the air and said, we don't have a game either. He's like, we're playing John Curtis. And they go play Curtis. And I mean, spoiler alert, if you want to watch it, it's great. It's awesome. Algiers America. But they go play John Curtis. I believe they're at golly, why can't I think? The one where Reggie Bush put the turf on the field. Golly, I forget the name of the field. It'll come to me.
Is it Gormley?
It's Tad Gormley.
Yeah.
They kick him the ball. I mean, like, first off, Carr is without their quarterback that night. He breaks his thumb in practice because the backup quarterback is dropping back.
Oh, no.
And there's a football behind his hand, and he went to go knock it out real quick, and the guy stepped on his hand.
Oh, my God.
And the starting quarterback breaks his thumb and has to have surgery.
That only happens when you're actually getting followed around for a documentary.
I mean, like, if you're the coach, you're like, say what?
What the?
Turn the cameras off.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, everybody out. And then so they got a backup quarterback. So, like, if you're John Curtis, the one thing that you're thinking is, like, we can't let Aaron Anderson beat us, right? I mean, like, let this quarterback, like, make this quarterback, like, have to throw it. Coach, they kick him the ball 3 straight times. I don't think he gets touched. Like, I don't think he gets touched one time. One time he runs straight at the sideline, puts his foot in the ground, and makes a, like, Reggie Bush type cut.
Exactly what it looks like.
It looks exactly like Reggie Bush. I mean, he's running that way, and his next step is that way. And he doesn't even break us. He doesn't break speed, man.
No.
I mean, it is like a car driving past a crowd that's, like, standing still. I mean, like, you can see kids like, boom, like, oh shit.
The guy, it's number 5 for John Curtis that he jukes, and you can see he has to turn around and look at him again.
It's Barry Sanders.
He's back there now.
I'm telling you, it is Reggie Bush.
This is impressive. Yep. Why would you punt it to him 3 times? 3 scores.
No. Like, one time they finally score. They finally score. John Curtis moves it back down to score. They kick off to him. He takes it 85 to the house.
I know.
I mean, like, his mom is so funny in the crowd. I mean, like, they're not gonna do it again. They're not gonna do it again. I mean, like, if I'm JT Curtis, I'm looking at the special teams coach and I'm saying, "Cuz, you got to find another job." I mean,
kick it out of bounds.
There's one player in the whole arena that can beat us single-handedly.
And you keep giving him the ball.
And you keep kicking it to him.
To their credit, they did try to kick it short. But
he ran up on it.
The man in front of him was just letting it roll to him.
Oh, if you got Aaron Anderson, you're trying to, like,
my God,
like pooch punt it or short kick, you turn around and throw it to him.
I was about to say, you almost, like, pick
you
it
turn
up
and
and, like,
toss.
give it to him.
Yeah. This is it. I can't wait to start this show. How many episodes are there? Are they
4.
doing it like a weekly?
No, it's 4.
That's it? It's a 4-part series?
2 years of following Carr.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like Aaron Anderson's junior and senior year. I mean,
you couldn't follow around probably a more electric player.
It's awesome.
Hell yeah. I know what I'm doing today. Mic'd up. In Algiers, America.
I believe that the final episode comes out tomorrow.
It might be 5.
Is it 4 or 5?
I think it's 5.
Okay. All right. And we're going to have the director on here pretty soon.
Oh, wow. Damn.
Is that the juke?
That was the first one.
I mean, he's kind of playing with him.
Yeah, it's a 5-part series. Oh, yeah. You know how easy high school had to be for him?
Oh, my
God. You know how much fun that would be?
I mean, he's running around like that as a junior, too. Like, the highlights the year before are even more impressive.
Right. And that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, you
kind of blow up.
We're not kicking it to him next year when we play.
I mean, play it. Put it on. I mean, this is going to be LSU's punt returner this year.
Yeah. If he finds any role, like, I don't know what he'll do in the wide receiver room, but you can guarantee he'll be punt returner.
But he's got to be in the rotation.
Oh, I would imagine so, but you're at least getting this.
Well, you don't have anybody like him.
No.
There's nobody else out there that can do what he does. Nobody can change the game like he can change the game.
Did he just get lost in the shuffle at Alabama or injuries?
I think it was the injuries. Yeah. I think he's watch the series. He's a homeboy. Yeah, he's a homebody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He's a Louisiana kid. He wanted to go to LSU his whole life.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was just kind of a timing thing.
Yeah, that's when LSU was in shambles. That's when you lost. You lost Shaz. You lost Aaron Anderson.
Yeah, they lost that whole crew. What was our boy from North Louisiana? Kendrick Law.
Kendrick Law. Yep.
Stud.
Only one starting at Bama. Only one playing at Bama right now.
Shaz will be in the rotation this year.
Yeah, I saw where Shaz was just named like the
spring
athlete
game
of the month.
Yeah.
Tough.
See, if Kendrick Law is in this year's class, I don't think you lose him.
Oh, definitely. I think if all three of them are in this class,
right.
you lose him.
I was surprised to not see Chaz at the portal. I thought he seemed like he wanted to come to LSU, but it's a timing thing. Speaking of timing,
don't
get your
do
stopwatch
it.
out.
Don't.
Trying to pooch punt real quick.
Don't do it.
Look, this is the cut right here. Watch.
He's at the 3.
Oh, zip by.
I mean, Coach. Gone.
I mean, we haven't had a special teams play in a minute. You want to hear Tiger Stadium? Stand right up and roar. That's a game changer. Hell yeah.
Coach coming out the sideline.
I mean, I was. You couldn't have said a player that I wanted to stay more than Aaron Anderson. I was like, oh no, we just lost that one. Tyreek Hill.
That was a tough loss.
Pill to swallow.
That was a tough loss. That was a tough loss.
But he's back.
All right, have a great day. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Mic'd up this afternoon.
6 to 8.
You want LSU baseball breakdown? You ain't gonna find any better. Mic'd up, 6 o'clock.
We'll be there. Milazzo in studio.